Hey everyone, this is Catching Up with the Nerds with your hosts Tom and JC and your special guest David. This is a podcast about two dads that are catching up on all the nerdy stuff we missed, sharing how we pass on our nerdy passions to our kids, and deep diving into nerd pop culture to make it accessible for you, listener. Welcome back, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
I almost lost my voice on my first word.
Well, on that note, would you like to start with your intro, Tom?
Yes, let's do that before I lose it completely. My name is Tom. I'm the French half of the podcast, and JC is the Honduran part of the podcast. You see, I'm introducing you by now. Think of me as the stinky French cheese of the podcast. This is me. Don't know why I'm going with this. I'm trying exactly. I've reached reached the goal I set to myself. I wanted to get you to facepalm. So, name's Tom, as I mentioned. Married to a lovely woman named Ellie. Got two kids. One is 4, and his name is Louis, and another one who's 11, named Emily. Both into video games, and that's what we're trying to get them to be into. Anything nerdy, that'd be us.
Hi, I am David. I guess I'm a podcast producer, right? Since I'm not doing anything else. I have a podcast about NBA basketball called the Grit and Grime podcast. But aside from that, I'm also into computer games a lot. As a Sony user, a PS4 user more specifically, long-time Nintendo user though, and I'm also into cartoons, Marvel cartoons, any other cartoons that were about action stuff when I was a kid growing up, and I haven't stopped. I've also dabbled in anime a little bit, and yeah, I love Marvel, so I'm here.
Every Monday.
Yeah, man. Thanks for doing this series with us. So I'm Juan Carlos Garay. Everybody calls me JC. I'm originally from Honduras, but lived in London for a while where I met Tom, and currently living in Portland. I'm married to Fiorella, my wife, and I've got 2 kids, Arabelle and Aiden. And I love all things graphic novels. That's kind of my jam. Also very into nerdy movies, nerdy series, and dabble in video games occasionally. So this is Catching Up with the Nerds, everyone. Tom, what are we talking about today?
Guess WandaVision Ep.5, which is was something. It was something. I think it's it was a weird one. This one because when I watched it for the first time, my first question was, "Huh?" Because the first 4 episodes, I was like, "Oh my god, amazing, excellent!" And I think I made the mistake of going online. I didn't get any spoilers by being on social medias, but I saw people's reaction to the episode, which was, "Oh my god, it's amazing!" You know, there's a massive twist at the end and blah blah. And I was expecting this massive firework, massive explosion and stuff to happen. So it wasn't a letdown. Upon my second watch, I thought it was another great episode. And it's, I'm a bit sad though, because I thought they would be releasing 5 and 6 in one go. And they did a promo for 5 and 6, and sadness came upon me on Friday morning when I checked Disney Plus. But it's okay. We get that.
Well, if you're sad, just create your own reality and then kick people in and out whenever you feel like it, and you're sad.
That's sort of what I do, yes. Create my own thing. Then realize I don't have any powers.
Yeah. How about you, David? What's your thought on the show, man?
Yeah, I was also disappointed that there was only 1 episode when Tom mentioned that. But then I watched said episode and I thought it was amazing. I personally think it's the best episode we've had yet, for reasons that I'll mention later on. But yeah, I think the way that they sort of merged the real world and the TV world, I think that was the best combination they've gotten of the 2 so far. And yeah, I thought it was the best one. Yeah.
Yeah, same here, man. Like that was my takeaway. Where it's like I like that they managed to get this format to work of now combining both. Because at first I was like, wait, how's this going to work? Are we just going to cut back to an entire sitcom and then cut back in the next episode to the real world? And the fact that they blend them together, I think is really nice. Just about my only gripe with the episode, because I thought it was great. My only gripe is I wanted a little more 80s sitcom. Like
Okay.
cut back on the intro to the 80s sitcom and give me a little more time in the 80s, because that's when I started watching sitcoms. Like I didn't watch sitcoms in the 70s. I was born in 78. Like it wasn't a thing.
Hey.
So yeah, it's like I wanted a little more from that because those are the ones I remember. So
It's true.
that's it. But
In terms of ratio, in terms of how much time they spend in the TV series, you know, in the fake world, they spend episode 1, 2, and 3, which is the vast majority of them being in those eras, and then you jump to the 80s, which is the same for me. I'm like, damn, that's where I started watching. Well, the first influential American TV shows date from back then, and I was like, damn, I really want to see a lot more of the 80s. But hey, again, they have to progress the story also in the real world. So that's understandable. But yeah, that was a bit of a shame. But again, I think to me, I still think the episode's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, right? I think I had more fun watching episode 4 in terms of getting answers. Do you know what I mean? Like I got my fun out of that. You know, it was like, oh, this is what happened at the same time they were living out their dream fantasy world. That's what happened in the real world with the scientists, you know, and Sword and all these guys. What were they doing and how did they get in touch with that reality? I thought that was pretty cool to get finally some answers about this. I think the first viewing of episode 5 was a bit like, what's that about? But and now rewatching it, yeah, it's as good as episode 4. I thought, damn, they're all good. All 5 episodes are great. So I don't know what I'm going about. Right. We said that. Shall we go through our usual drill of talking about the episode, which is a bit of the aesthetics, as in how it's shot, but there's not much to go on about this week, I feel. And then the plot, which is then followed by, well, the plot, which is as told by the smooth voice of JC, who loves to tell a good story. And then the bunch of Easter eggs that we've written down, and then where we think this is going. Boom. Right. So the look, how it feels, how it looked like, and how it was filmed this week. Well, this week, but for this episode, I think 80s, and who says 80s says soft ass camera. You know, it's almost like someone's leathered some powder on your screen, and it looks so gooey and soft. So I think that's the only thing I've noted. I've not noted anything else with the audio or anything with the sound. I don't know. Do you guys
I don't think I
else?
noticed anything. There was a laugh track. The laugh track seemed to only come in awkward moments. It seemed to laugh only when there wasn't something funny to laugh at this episode.
Oh, that's the 80s for you.
Is that a Ted
Yeah,
Danson shot?
Yeah, you're right. It was funny to see all the characters dressed as 80s character, but that's another topic of discussion. But yeah, I don't know. It feel like because they've put so much effort into I think the first 2 episodes, they had to get it spot on with all those details from those I'm talking about the technical aspect of it, and I think they've made, or maybe we're just used to the 80s. I don't know if maybe it's less of a shock for us now, but I think there's a lot more things you need to remember, things you need to put in place to get that 1950s, 1960s, maybe 1970s feel to an episode. And I think now the 80s style is something that's been mastered by pretty much everyone in the in the TV series, well, in the media world. So I don't think it's as much of a shock as well visually for us to witness that again. But yeah, I don't know. There's not much else to dissect. I think.
I've got one. It's like, I'm surprised they
Yeah.
didn't go by to the previous aspect ratio. Like the fact that they stuck with
Mm.
16:9 for the 80s. I
Mhm.
thought, like, was the 80s really 16:9? Did we have widescreen TVs that readily available everywhere?
No.
I think it was 4:3 still, 16:9. So in terms of, because obviously I still work in the world of TV, so funny enough, I think one of the only country to still sometimes produce content 4:3 is the US. Funny enough, they still sometimes spit out a couple series that are 4:3 and then it's stretched out to 16:9. I don't know why it is, but it is. But I think the 80s, that's the start of 16:9. But it wasn't by any stretch of the imagination the favored aspect ratio for the time. I think 4:3 was still the main thing for the TV world. I think for cinema, and then it's definitely 16:9. But I'm trying to remember if, for example, Fuller House, I think that was 4:3, if I'm not mistaken.
So my point of reference is actually The Simpsons, because when The Simpsons got dropped onto Disney Plus, like the whole world lost their mind because they had the wrong aspect ratio and they were like basically chopping off the heads of a bunch of people
Yeah.
because The Simpsons was 4:3 and they tried to translate to 16:9. It just didn't look right. So I was like, yeah, Simpsons is 80s. So that's why in my head, or yeah, maybe it was a late 80s thing. I don't know,
It's
but
late,
I was
yeah.
surprised. I thought they were going to go back to 4:3, but outside of that, I didn't pick up anything else. You're right.
No, usually it sort of jumps. I think especially with the audio work they've done on the first few episodes, that then if you pay attention, there's really a lot of details into that. So it's I don't think, like you said, I think Dave, the audio tracks was the only thing. Maybe that was put out of place on purpose. But again, I'm not really sure. I need to watch it a third time again and just trying to pay attention to that bit. But yeah, shall we move on to the sexy part of the episode, which is JC talking to us about, or walking us through the episode and what happened. That would be lovely.
Like silkily gliding past the plot. But I'll retake the challenge, and again, challenge accepted. How can I get this down to 3 comments? The whole episode. The kids grow up. Wanda tells Sword to fuck off. X-Men show up. Done. Yep. Episode.
You may skip forward for a good 5 minutes. Go on.
And we're done.
Interesting.
All right. So we kind of start off with this, like, what's going to set in the 80s, and Wanda and Vision are trying desperately to put the kids to sleep. And I have to be honest, like, that scene was very effective in that it was probably like the most terrorizing scene that has ever existed in the MCU, because it gave me like severe PTSD to like the child crying days. Like,
I relate.
Could viscerally feel uncomfortableness of that moment. So seeing them react to it was really cool, right? So they're trying to get the kids to sleep, and then Agnes shows up right when Wanda needs help, right? And then she shows up and she's trying to help them put the kids to sleep. And they have this awkward moment where it feels like it's a scene where Agnes kind of goes like, should we take it from the top, or something to that effect? So she says like, let's redo this because something goes wrong. And it tips off Vision. Vision goes, wait a second, what was that about? And Wanda definitely tries to cover it up. It's definitely, Wanda didn't want Agnes to do that, right? So she tries to cover it up. So a lot more happening there, but the next important part in that scene is that the twins can grow themselves up. Apparently, they go from babies to being toddlers, from being toddlers to being like 10-year-olds. So they can take care of Sparky the dog and stuff like that. So there's now introduction of like have their own agency over their growth. Right. We then cut back to the real world, and we know that like Monica has been expelled from this alternate reality, and she's waking up at Sword. And she wakes up, and then they did a scan on her, and the scan showed nothing, and the blood test showed nothing, and she refuses to take another one. So there's another big tip off of like, oh wait, what happened to Monica right now? Like, why isn't she showing up? And I think it was like an MRI scan or something like that. Right. So then she wakes up and she's like, no, let's get back to it. Let's try to figure out what happened. And then they go talk to Hayward, who is being his most dislikable of like the entire series. Like if we didn't think this guy was a bad guy, it could not have been spelled out more than the moment when like Darcy goes like, "Oh, Hayward, he's such a," and she's about to curse him out, and they cut to terrorist. And I'm like, that's good writing, people. They spelled it out for us. So basically, we know that Hayward's up to something. He's definitely on the offense with Wanda, whereas Monica, even though she saw everything that would happen, she comes out thinking, no, we need to help Wanda. Like she's going through something, and she's trying to make it so it's not entirely Wanda's fault, even though she still believes she's totally in control. That she's something she's going through. So we then get a big reveal, right? Which is that somehow Hayward had decided not to share with everyone that showed up to do this thing, that he had footage, right? And how he has that footage, that becomes a bit weird. How does he know this happened? But he's got footage that Wanda basically broke into the lab and stole, Wanda broke into the lab and stole Vision's body, right? And it's very blurry. It's hard to see exactly Vision's body very well, but from everything they've got that they told us, she definitely stole the body. They were doing experiments on him, which is the other big reveal. And then finally, which is my second favorite moment of the episode, which is when they make the point that a Vision had a living will. It's hilarious, because why not? Because all Avengers have to sign these things before they go in. They have non-compete agreements. The corporate world's still a thing in the MCU. Then we cut back to good old sitcom land. We find out that Sparky died. Sorry. At this point, they got Sparky, correction. And then they grow up to be 10 years old, so they can take care of Sparky. And we also find out that Monica wants to go back into the Hex, right? And now we're calling it the Hex because Darcy called that, and it seems like Darcy is the audience where she's just calling things throughout the episode that we're supposed to like use as the name going forward. So we know it's the Hex, and then we know that Monica wants to go back in. She's like, I feel like I could go do some help and stuff. And then obviously Hayward, she's like, well, no, you're gonna fly back in on a drone. So park that for a minute. We know that Vision is somehow in the office. They're basically working on the first version of email. And the email that comes through is an email actually from Darcy. And then he finds out about there's stuff happening in the outside world, and he manages to actually wake up one of his coworkers. And this is like straight out of, well, we can touch about that later, but where that comes from. But he wakes him up and then just realizes that he's in huge pain as this person's being like basically sucked into this reality that Wanda created. And that really sits very badly with Vision. Like he feels he needs to go do something about it, right? We go back to the drone going into this alternate reality. Wanda's seeing the drone, and then basically Hayward, once again doing one of his moves, he decides to pull the trigger on actually shooting a missile at Wanda. She of course stops it because that ain't a thing for the Scarlet Witch. And she comes out of the reality, right? And this is where we deal with sorry, I cut that for a second. We cut away. And then we go back to Sparky being dead. And it's another big moment because Sparky the dog is dead because he ran off and the kids want to go find him. And Agnes finds him and makes it a real point that we can't bring these people, these beings back, right? So whether it be a dog or a person, she really harps on the point of like not bringing people back necessarily. And the kids have to talk about, and then Wanda has to talk to the kids about that. And there's a real irony to that moment of just like Wanda telling the kids about that you can't bring back the dog. So then we go back to where Wanda's talking to Vision, and wait, I might have messed up.
We've got a miss. Yeah, because she returns the drone and then she catches up to the kids looking for Sparky.
Right. Yes, she returns it. She goes outside and talks to Sword and basically lets them know, you can't mess with my reality. You gotta like give me my distance. I'm doing what I need to do to create the world that I need to live in, and no one's going to take that from me. And then she manages to get everybody that's pointing their lasers at her to point at Hayward. So she immediately clocks the fact that Hayward is the bad guy here, and maybe there's history there. So she goes back into reality, and everything plays out with the dog. And then we get a huge moment, which is Wanda and Vision get into a fight. Right. And not a physical fight, but they get into an argument. Right. And it's part of their relationship. And they, at some point, they elevate into the air and they assume like the stance that both of them have like classically had in the comics, which is really cool. And then they kind of talk themselves down. But Wanda begins to realize things through that argument. And right as she seems to be getting to a breakthrough, something happens and the doorbell rings. And it's clear that she didn't do it this time because they make that a point. And then she goes to the door and they really slow it down and build it up. And they get to see all the faces. And then she turns and standing in front of her is Pietro, but not the Pietro we know from the MCU, but the Pietro from the Fox universe shows up because he's an X-Men and we've had X-Men movies and he was an X-Men in those movies. And that's the cliffhanger. Done. Sorry, I messed it up.
That's right. That's right. You've got everything in there, so the order towards the end doesn't matter. It's all good.
There's tons to talk about.
Dude,
like
where do you
to
start?
Exactly.
The beginning again.
Yeah, honestly, David, what are some of the things that happened in the episode that really like landed with you that really were eye-opening?
So I like to go back to the start with the whole scene with the kids crying. Again, Wanda tries to use her powers and it doesn't work on the twins, right? So that's another sign that we have that she can't control everything within the hex. And we get a few more throughout the episode. But I always like to point that out because I am dying on this she's not the only person in charge train.
Yeah, you're right.
And then just the fact that after they start discussing what happened with Agnes, Agnes sprays the kids with what she calls lavender. We don't know what's really in that vial. And then the fact that the kids age up off camera and she's the one looking after them when it happens. And I think that there could be something to that because both times they age up, she is there, she's present, and we can't see what she's doing either time. So yeah, I think that's something interesting early on that I want to highlight.
I mean,
aging up. Go for it, Dom.
Yeah. No, so I don't know. I think the one sentence that Agnes says, like kids, you can't control them. In that opening bit, I think it's pointing. It's showing you what the episode's going to be about, right? That's sort of the running themes. It's like, well, you may control whatever it is you can control, Wanda, but there's a few people in this you cannot. You cannot have a hold over. So it's quite interesting to see that those kids. I think it was discussed that because they have powers themselves. Obviously, being babies, they don't know about those powers just yet, and we don't know about them just yet. She cannot cast any spell, if you will, over them, but maybe Agnes can. We don't know. So it's maybe she cannot. Maybe Wanda cannot use the stones like power stones over them, but maybe Agnes, being a witch, spoiler, she can do that by getting them to age. I think we've not mentioned, actually, as we're still in the opening, we've not talked about the opening credits, which was terrifying / hilarious.
It was hilarious.
Especially the Vision photos as a baby, which I pissed myself laughing. But then also the lyrics, which were very telling of the entire episode. It's like we're making things. No, was it making things up as we go? The lyrics, which is quite funny.
I didn't even listen to them. I'm gonna go back and listen.
Watch the opening credits and listen to the lyrics. But then And then there's also I don't know if we'll talk about it in the Easter eggs, but there's this running themes of animals also running through the entire episode. So it's like, again, opening credits with Vision as a kid posing with toy animals and teddy bears and stuff like that. And then you've got the same, I think, for Wanda. She may have a couple photos. But then there's Agnes referring tiger. There's a tiger on the table at some point. There's a whole bunch of stuff with animals.
There's giraffes on the shelf in the background. And
again, Easter eggs. So I'm moving to Easter eggs territories right there, but I shouldn't be doing that. But again, because it's right from the start, I think it's quite interesting to point out that it's there. There was another thing, but I certainly forgot. But it's okay. Yeah, I agree. I think the lavender thing that Agnes sprays the kids with, there might be something in there. I think it might be some sort of magical potion, or maybe it's just straight up lavender. She's not talking.
Could be lavender, which is magical in its own right.
It is magical. It reminds me of my childhood.
Well, no, get this, dude. This is like very much in the stupid Easter egg camp.
Yeah.
Apparently, there was a Marvel hero called Lavender.
Oh wow!
That showed up just for a bit, like in the, I don't know, like 60s or something, called Lavender, and like fought like Captain America at some point or something like that. They don't know what their powers were, but surely this isn't it. This is not it. But it goes to show some people are digging.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The Purple Man. Oh yeah, you're right. Super villain. Oh my god. Yeah, no, I don't want to read about that.
But David, come back to your point about the growing up. Yeah. It is one of the themes that I generally struggle with. That it threw me off because there's definitely that theme of death and resurrection, and that has been going out throughout the series, and we can see what that is going to mean because of Vision. Now we know that she stole the body. It's like it makes total sense. But why the kids need to grow up and not through Wanda's desire is the part that I don't entirely get. Like, I'm like, because she could have developed an attachment to the babies just as much to the older kids. If anything, like it risks like removing attachment from them because she doesn't feel they are hers because they're not growing up as she wants them to. So I still don't get the growing up theme, but it has to be relevant.
Yeah. To me, that's part of why it has to be an outside influence. I mean, the only way it isn't is if they have this storyline that they know they're going to have with the twins and the babies. She's going to get pregnant in episode 2 or whatever. And then obviously we went through the whole 70s. So we can't necessarily have them stay the same age as we go through the decades, even though no one else ages.
Exactly.
That's the only other thing that would make sense, is that, you know, they sort of age with the show, which would have completely huge implications for episodes 7, 8, 9, and 5. 6, 7, 8, and 9 as well, if they continue to follow with this trend.
I think they'll stop at 10, because there's one bit where I think director Hayward is talking about who Wanda is in the briefings.
Oh
and
yeah,
she's like,
she. I know what you mean.
Something happened when she got. No, the parents died at the age of 10.
Yes, she was orphaned at the age of 10.
Or she was orphaned at the age of 10.
Yeah.
I think now, even though she's not controlling them or their growth or whatever,
she'll want them to stay.
She'll want them to stay at 10 years old. I think they're not going to age at all. I would be very surprised if they do age some more. But I think they'll stick to 10-year-olds because she can relate to that and she get attached to your point, JC. You know, that you think maybe she gets detached because they're not babies anymore, because now they, you know, like you know how it is. Like when they get to the age of 10, they become their own person, right? So it's not you don't detach yourself, you don't love them anymore. It's more like they become their own person. They're less reliant on your help to do things. They don't rely on you at all anymore. So just in case, you know. Don't cry. It's okay.
Yeah, can't boss them around anymore.
You can't boss them around. They don't need you to do the basic things. You know, they can pretty much function on their own now. But, you know, going back to them being 10, it's like she can relate to them. And from that age, sort of her childhood was over because the parents were dead. She then became what they call like they say, they use the word brainwashed, I think, by
Strucker.
Hydra, or by Strucker.
Yeah.
So there's something in there. I think she'll. I don't know if there's control or not over the way they age, but maybe they definitely will want them to stay around that age to have a proper childhood. I think.
Yeah, but she's not in control of it.
There you go. But then the kind of think one of the next big ones after that is Monica, right?
Yeah.
Monica waking up and the MRI doesn't work. Thoughts? Is she
I think
become?
it did work. I think it did work. I think you're seeing inside now. You're seeing what she really is. You're gonna now she's all vibrations and
Energy.
I think that's actually energy, and I think she really she does work. And the MRI did work, and you actually just saw what she is for real now, a superhero with energy power.
Okay, so I'm just gonna put this out there. I will lay down bets on Darcy names her. Darcy gives her a superhero name.
Yeah.
That has to happen. Darcy's been naming everything.
No, she will.
Yeah, that's interesting actually. Yeah, I do think she has her powers, but more interesting than that is maybe her reaction. The way she just sort of dismisses doing the scans and everything again. She's just like, that's not gonna happen. It's almost like she knows.
Yeah.
Because if I was in whatever state I was in, coming off being beamed out of off the TV show, and my scans and things came up blank, I would be like, no, I want some answers. I want some concrete knowledge.
Draw more blood.
What's going on here? Yeah, like I want answers. She's not of that thinking at all. So I wonder if she knows.
Yeah, and her reaction to just someone saying Captain Marvel. I felt like it was a negative reaction. It might have been just like
She even says we're not talking about her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
we're not going to talk about her.
That was a huge reveal for me because I'm like, oh, wait a second, like she was like friends with your mom, and then the mom had cancer, and I'm like, wait, did the mom get cancer from Captain Marvel? And like for a minute, it came up in my head, but I'm not sure if that tracks at all.
I took it more along the lines of I think because Captain Marvel left at the end of Captain Marvel, right, the film. So she basically left the mom alone again with the kid. So I think she's more resentful towards her because she's actually maybe never came back to Earth. And like she died, and maybe she doesn't even know about it. That would be interesting to see in Captain Marvel too. If that's, I'm sure it would be talked about. I think because she's like, well, where were you when my mom died? Well, I'm sure Captain Marvel can say the same, like, where were you? She was blipped, so she wasn't there herself. But
that would be scathing.
Cold, I know. No. But to be fair, she was there for the operations and all that stuff. So yeah, but I think she missed when her mom passed away, I guess. Yeah, I think that's where it came from. It's more resentment because of the fact that she wasn't there to go through it all or be there with a friend when she had cancer. I think so. I don't know. Maybe there's some other backstory they'll come up with at some point. But
I think you're right. But to rewind to two other things, well, the least important one is Wu saying that that Wanda doesn't have any name. She doesn't have any nickname, no superhero name. And Tyler's like, nothing? You sure? Like, he asked him 4 or 5 more. It's just like, yeah, we get it, Marvel. Okay. She's not, whatever she's called. I always forget her name.
Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch, yeah. So maybe she gets that nickname either at the end of the show or in one of the later films or something like that.
I think it would be dropped because they need to tie up the whole witch story with Agnes and all that stuff, that good stuff. So it'll be like, well, now she's a Scarlet Witch. She's a witch herself. It will be dropped at some point. Maybe there will be a fight between Hayward and is he Hayward? Yeah, Hayward and
Tyler. Yeah.
And Wanda, and then he's gonna call her. He's gonna pull his mask and reveal Mephisto's face. He's gonna like, Scarlet Witch.
She's a witch. Get her.
She's a witch.
He's gonna pull off his face. It's gonna be a Red Skull. I'm like,
Oh God, no, please don't.
Back again.
Please just die. Just
honestly. I feel like Red Skull's just taking like freelance gigs. He's like, someone needs to protect the Soul Stone. I got it, dude. I got it. How much you paying me? I'll do that. It's like someone needs to be this guy Hayward. He's like bad metal management. I got it, dude. I'll do that. I'll do that.
Don't go and spend your cash and waste your time in
He
casting
shows up
anyone
in
else.
random moments.
Yeah, so funny. And then the other thing was just before they mention Captain Marvel, I think Monica's saying she's mentioning all the things that she would need to go back into the hex, and I think that's when they bring up the hex actually, and she mentions that she needs photons. Another callback to her name and her mother's nickname, but then I can't remember what the reasoning is, but she said something about knowing an aerospace engineer that would love to blah blah blah.
They need to build that big truck thing that can get her back in there.
Yes.
Which we see in the trailer for episode 6, by the way. So that's gonna get built.
And she says that she knows someone that would be interested. And I've speculated, I'm sure you guys have seen in the notes, whether that is someone from the Fantastic Four that she might know, have a link to, whether that is Victor Von Doom.
Yeah,
he is also an aerospace engineer.
Indeed.
Fantastic Four's been hinted in the last Spider-Man film. It could be a Skrull of some kind because she has literally lived with Skrulls in the Captain Marvel film. And there's another person now I've forgotten. Ironheart is an aerospace enginerer.
True.
Good one. That would be cool.
Dude, really good one. Wait, what's the callback in Spider-Man? I don't remember that one.
So I watched it recently. Basically, he's swinging through.
The post-credit. Yeah, he's swinging to get somewhere. To
And then on the back wall, there's like some graffiti which says 1, 2,
3, and 4.
3. And then there's no 4 written, but I think there's something about the way that the numbers are written. Each one looks like it represents a member of the Fantastic Four, and then the 4 is invisible to represent Mrs. Fantastic herself.
Right.
Invisigirl, whatever her name is.
Yeah. Huh. I did not catch that. That's an the Fantastic Four idea I think is interesting because I think they also make some sort of mention of like some sort of space program that isn't going well or something to that effect about something in space that didn't go well. And we know that that's the Fantastic Four origin, right?
Yeah.
So
I can't remember the name, but you're right. Yeah. I think
and
Richard
also,
Reed is gonna...
Reed Richards.
Reed Richards.
And the director of Spider-Man is the same director that is going to be at the helm of the Fantastic Four MCU movie. So he's leaving crumbs for himself.
Yes.
Tom Watts.
Very interesting. Okay. All right. No, I buy it. Yeah. No, that's definitely like that's definitely a big one, man. Like it's like this somehow leads into Fantastic Four. Like it feels like this series is just going to open up everything that's going to happen, right? It's like it's going to be across the board because Fantastic Four and X-Men don't have any movies coming up immediately. So this somehow still this narrative has to be taken forward. It can't be just an Easter egg that 3 years later we're like, oh great, that came to fruition. Like there's got to be something else that we don't know about.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. This is future stuff, but like we know that this is followed up by Falcon and Winter Soldier. And part of me is just like, they've put so many Easter eggs into this show that I can't imagine there being anywhere near as many in Falcon and Falcon and Winter Soldier. Yeah, and it'll be kind of disappointing. Like it'll just be, there was action, people got shot, and then the plot will be the whole show when we do our Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier recaps.
Well, and I don't know if in the trailer, I don't know if it was in the previous trailer. I didn't pick up on it in the previous trailer, but in this trailer, there's that moment where Falcon tells Winter Soldier, he's like, "Oh, dude, you got like whooped by that little girl or something," and like little girl.
Yeah,
It's like-
me too. I saw that.
I was like,
huh?
that
What's that?
sounds mutant to me. So,
Could be.
so
Yeah.
well, I have a theory about that, but we'll wait for theory section. But any other moments from the show that you guys kind of like felt were huge?
That was the main one.
I think the next one, the one that is coming after that, well, I think it's part of the briefing when they show the footage, the Wanda footage stealing
Vision.
Vision's body or corpse. I like that word very much. Which I think we discussed before, but there was a scene that was filmed at the end of one of the Avengers movie, wasn't it?
Endgame.
Endgame. Oh yeah, Endgame. And there was an interview of Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen saying, "Oh yeah, well actually there's that scene, but it got cut by Kevin Feige, so they were not using that because he had to keep it for something else." Well, that was it. So that's what the something else was. And the one thing that surprised me was the state of Vision's body on the table, which, like JC said, was clearly being tampered with. So don't know if they're trying to weaponize his body or if they were doing some straight up research into him.
Sword would never go against his will.
No, of course not. Of course not.
And it ties back to something we heard, right? Which is like sword change into sentient weapons, and it
Exactly,
wasn't that before. So that's it. They were trying to weaponize Vision flat out. I think that was like fact, done, sold, sell it. So it feels like it's now very clear that one of our bads, who it is, which is Sword, is going to be a bad. We're going to get another Hydra moment where it's like Hydra's infiltrating or somebody's infiltrating Sword in some way or other. So we know that's definitely set up as one of the bads, but we still don't know who like the person is behind the reality that might be a bad, right?
Well, let me jump off my Easter egg I just added onto the list. I think it's well timed for me to put that one in there. Which, because somebody mentioned Hydra. Yeah, you see it on the list, right? What is it? Is it Captain Hayward? No, what is he? Is it Detective Hayward? What is it? No, Director.
Director Hayward.
Director. So if you take his name and you get rid of a couple letters, well, you can rearrange it to spell Hydra, which I thought was a bit out there. But
well, if you add 10 letters and remove the ones you don't want,
multiply that by 3.
Say hell.
Divided by 6, and then square it, you get Thanos. So it's
and then if you add the letters that you pick up from your cereal and whichever letters are in your spoon, that's the bad guy.
No milk. That's the bad guy. But I watched that and I was in disbelief, but also I was like, I wouldn't put it past Marvel to do that, something like that. It's like, you know what? So yeah, there you go. So somebody was thinking, there's someone out there that theorized that Director Hayward is actually Hydra, and he's part
that
of that.
person was Reed Richards, because that is the biggest reach I've ever seen.
Dang.
David, just leave now. Just that's it, dude. You peaked at that moment.
I'm here all night. I can do this all day.
Hey, and this is it for us.
Just keep dude, honestly, this is not your podcast. Yeah,
we quit. Bye. You do this on your own now.
If you tie it into That's America's Ass, I will be very impressed.
Just give me 30 to 40 seconds.
Challenge accepted.
Oh man. But no, so coming back to like the app, for me, one of the moments that was I was very pleased to see it, put it that way. It wasn't necessarily Easter eggy, but just when Wanda and Vision have the fight, when they get into the argument, because one of the things that for me was very interesting about the series is that we had no real relationship between Wanda and Vision to really hang our hat on. Like all the relationship happens off screen, and the closest we get is that conversation in Scotland, in Edinburgh. And that, like, it feels like a relation because they're debating, what do we do? Do we go off together? Blah, blah. And this is another moment because even in the sitcom ones, it's still the relationship is there to serve the sitcom trope, right? It's like the 50s thing, the 60s thing. It serves that. It serves them. It's like they have an actual disagreement about something that fundamentally affects their moral compass. Like Vision is like, you're putting people in pain. And Wanda's like, you want to take away a thing that you don't understand the implications of what it means to take away that thing. And that to me was really powerful. Like I love that part in the episode.
Yeah.
And then when they assumed like the battle stance is up in the air, it's like, oh, is this gonna happen? And it's like, it didn't happen. And I was kind of glad. But it really like moved for me. Now when something happens, it will mean more for me because I see that Vision wants to do the right thing. I see that Wanda desperately wants to protect Vision, and how those two moral perspectives come together. I think that's the part I'm really looking forward to, like how they resolve that.
The argument really humanizes Vision as well. Like we know him as we think he's an android. He's actually a synthezoid. We saw him free Norm for a period, and he's questioning things. But that argument, like we've all been there, right? It being in a relationship when you know you have to bring up something that is going to lead to an argument. Those situations are when like you're really, really you. He's there, he's washing up the dishes, and then he brings up this conversation that he's been sitting on all day, right? He comes over and the dog's dead. That's the first time he sees them since he went to work, and he waits obviously for them to put the kids to bed and everything. And then he turns, having finished the dishes, and he starts this conversation that he knows is going to lead to an argument. And that gave me chills, not only because I'm a huge rom-com fan and are very interested in relationships in general, but that moment when she's like, oh, well, let's just, and he says, what, put on the television, and the credits start rolling.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh. And then he just argues through it. She goes into the living room, he goes into the living room, and they just cut away from the credits. The credits just cut themselves. And the argument continues, and it's like, yeah, the show's over, right? The show's over. This is real life.
By the way,
there's a
there's
metaphor. Yeah, go ahead.
There's something, I don't know if you, anybody noticed, but there's a filming technique that happened. There's two different filming techniques that happened within that scene. So everything that was filmed, or the majority of sitcoms that were filmed in the 80s, is set up with 3 cameras. So you always have one on each character, so you get the reactions, and you film it in front of a live audience, so you don't want to spend 3 hours redoing the same scene getting reaction from, because in movies you one take from one actor, reverse the camera, get the reaction, and then you go like that. So that's what movies take forever to. In the TV settings, you get, especially in the 80s, you get 3 camera sets. So you're filming 3 different angles, 3 times the same reaction, 3 times the same thing, and it's a lot efficient. It's to maximize with your money, also how much time you spend on the sets costs less money. Obviously, if you speed that process up, you spend less money on the crew, and everybody's time is reduced. But then when they go through the end credits and they keep arguing throughout the entire end credits, it cuts to a different filming technique, which is now, I think, like a single camera technique. And you see the way it's filmed is a lot closer to the faces and it's a lot closer to the action, and it's very different. If you watch it again, you'll notice it. It's like I think it's also true in terms of like when they go in between the 80s series sitcom and the reality of everybody else outside Westview. So it's quite interesting to notice that. But
absolutely,
in the second viewing is when I picked up on it. The first one I was like, oh yeah, there's something slightly different, but it's confirmed when you watch it again and you pay attention to that, the different filming techniques. But
they cut through to the other room, and they do start arguing and stuff, and Vision really shows his human side. He's like, I'm trying to understand what you're doing here, but I don't know who I am. Like, I don't remember anything before this,
which is super interesting. So I don't know if you guys thought the same. It's like, is he saying that because he was dead and he was just got brought back into this setup, and he's a new person, a new character, so obviously he wouldn't have anything, like he's not him, he was recreated by somebody else. Or was it because they plucked, like they got what's the name in Endgame, with Star-Lord,
Gamora.
Gamora. They got her from different universe or different timeline.
So she doesn't know him.
So
she's not attracted to him.
So I think there's another theory of having multiverse, and obviously it is still Vision, but she plucked, or somebody else plucked, another vision from another timeline, another universe into that one. And that would be why he's got no recollection of what happened before that. It would be like, actually, I don't really know you.
I would add a third factor, which would be the Mind Stone, right? Because that's where he drew all of his knowledge from originally.
He hasn't got it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But
I think that was a very pivotal scene of the entire series. That one, because it shows a lot of things, and it shows that obviously during that discussion of the argument, she sort of admits that she's got no power. Like she just actually doesn't have any power on everyone, or at least their activities and what they're doing. So, which ties in with that scene with Norm where Vision just goes all Ultron on him, and I thought that was also a very important scene, because he's like, the things he's saying is like, oh, she's controlling everything. She's in my head, but it's like he doesn't really say who she is. Like he never mentions Wanda by name. He never mentions anyone by name. So it's also very open to who he's talking about. I think he's talking about the witch. So Agnes. But
no, and I'd take that one level up, Dom. Like, I think it's one of the most important moments in all of the MCU from a relationship perspective. We've never had a relationship between two main characters, because Hulk or Banner and
Widow
and Natasha, they have this relationship, but it never really amounts to much. It's kind of a throwaway thing. It just sets up for Hulk to be upset at the end of Endgame, but even that feels a bit like,
would have been anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody, like, her relationship with Jeremy Renner is more important at that point, right? As with Hawkeye, actually lands harder. So I feel this is the first relationship where, like, oh man, no, this relationship matters in this world, and so I thought it was really cool.
Hulk didn't want to smash.
Oh my god.
That's a Monica got, I think.
Anyway.
But
and then another little like Easter egg thing, when they float up in the air, Vision has his leg up like she does.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning in terms of like duality, and like she's controlling, and I think he does fly like that's his stance, right, in the comic books or not?
No. Okay. He does not have his leg up. He has both feet down.
So that's what. So I was sort of right in watching the trailer for episode 5. That there's that. Well, no, but the season trailer, when there's that scene which we've seen now in the episode, where they're just mirroring each other.
Yeah.
And I think to me that showed that she's controlling him, because she's like, okay, well, you get up in the air with them.
And there's even that point as they're starting the argument where he says to her, "You can't control me like you can the others," and she turns to him and goes, "Can't I?" Really?
Get into the other room and I'll show you.
Synthezoid.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Oh man, wanted to bring in the heat, man. So you said Easter eggs. So I think it'd be, I know everyone out there wants to listen to us talk about Pietro, but let's do Easter eggs and then come back to Pietro.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's frustrate people a little bit, much like WandaVision has frustrated us. Let's do that. So Easter eggs, what you guys got?
The intro, if we start with the intro, it was a callback to the 80s, as we've said. It involved the show's Family Ties, I think, is the main one. That's where the set comes from, and a lot of the clothes in general. But it also has elements of Growing Pains, which I think is the painted intro when they do the sort of filling in the pencil with the paint. And then Full House, which ironically was the show that debuted Elizabeth Olsen's sisters, Mary, Kate, and Ashley, the Olsen twins as they were known. And Elizabeth Olsen was actually asked to be on Fuller House, the remake, and she said, "No, I'm in the MCU." I got bigger and
I actually watched a bunch of episodes of Fuller House, and she did. She that was the right decision. That
you think?
Why
about
you
to-
watch those? I think it's a whole entire podcast in of itself as to why one would choose to watch Fuller House.
Because no, I didn't watch it. Actively watch it. It was Ellie who's trying to get Emily into the Full House universe. I was
The
gonna say
multiverse.
the multiverse,
The
Fuller House
Fullerverse.
multiverse, the Fullverse. Dude, it's that house.
Sidebar, but that is interesting because we don't really have family TV shows like that anymore. I was watching some old Fresh Prince and was thinking that exact same thing, that we don't really
actually,
get
yeah.
shows
like
like that anymore.
Like like the setting being in one house with one big family, like that's not a thing anymore. Well, actually, there's a couple. I can't remember the one on Netflix which is following a Latino family. Damn it, Ellie was watching it again.
Well, the
You guys
closest
don't
we
know.
got was Modern Family.
But that's the
Yeah,
one.
which
that's
is
the one I'm
ending
thinking
now.
That's the closest. But you think about it, it stands out, and because it's out there in a sea of nothing.
Mm.
So like you could argue kind of Schitt's Creek does that, but it's not the same setting. There's no kids. The kids are grown up, so it's different.
And the way we've watched the way we watch TV is different now. That's the other thing.
Oh wait, no, I gotcha. Which is a show I'd absolutely love, and it does pick up a lot of this format. Blackish. Blackish does take the sitcom approach where
Yeah, it does.
problem gets raised, it gets
Yep.
resolved within the same episode, and
Yep.
it's a family. It's about them growing up, and you see the kids grow up on the show. So that's
Absolutely.
the closest I think we
Yeah.
have, really.
Yeah, that's true.
Cool. More Easter eggs.
I think that the one I really like, the Easter eggs, I think is it's further down in the towards the end. I think it's in the middle of the episode is when Wanda gets out of the hexagon, the hex, and her accent is back. I thought that was quite interesting. She sounded different, and I thought it was quite funny.
Like Count Chocula is what you did now.
Sounds
From Moldova.
exactly like her accent does
Exactly
to me. To be fair,
No, I thought it was quite interesting, and it's something I kept wondering a lot about how she went from the first time we've seen her in the MCU, she sounded from Sokovia, and then suddenly out of nowhere, second film, bang, yeah, I'm from LA. I lived in LA for the last I'm like, what? I mean, I know you got powers, but like seriously, an accent is not something you lose easily, you know.
And
Exhibit
it's funny because I had just watched, like days before the episode came out, a brief interview of her where she said that the accent hasn't gone anywhere. It's just that the show is set in as an American sitcom, so
Sure.
she has inside the show she has an American accent. But she was like, no, but no, the accent hasn't gone anywhere, not at all. And then boom, the next episode, like accent's back. To the point where I wonder if they even like reshot the audio or something. They were like,
Possible,
guys, they're
yeah.
onto us.
They
'Cause
know.
I feel like as soon as we left Ultron, like that accent was gone. Like it died with her brother.
Oh,
Oh, God, we're
harsh.
tonight. We are harsh.
You're just bringing it today, David. Damn, dude. But it's true. It's a bit of a retcon. And sure, whatever. It's like we can tell, guys. Like we can totally tell that you guys have been messing with that accent. But fine, if they want to say they did it, then fine.
Easter eggs, guys. We haven't talked about the advert.
Yeah, I was gonna come to that. Go for it.
Are you gonna get, which actually made me laugh. The last line.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to interrupt. Before we get to this,
Go on.
can we just address this whole Lagos fiasco? It is February, which is Black History Month in in America. I went to see see Civil War with a bunch of friends, mostly black, and the way that they pronounce Lagos in the MCU is completely wrong, and it was completely hilarious. But now that it's like permeating the rest of the MCU and the Marvel universe, we just have to put an end to this. Someone needs to stand up and make a stand. And I'm going to make that stand right now.
Do it.
It's pronounced Lagos.
Thank you.
Lagos is a big city, a huge city in Nigeria. For a long time, it was the capital. It is pronounced Lagos. Lagos, Lagos, Lagos. Earlier on in the episode, when they're analyzing her terrorist activity, they refer to it as Lagos. And then again in this advert, they make a whole product called Lagos in reference to said activity. And it's pronounced Lagos, and it's not pronounced Lagos. It is Lagos. Lagos, Lagos, Lagos.
Thanks for
So you're saying that when I'm flying over London and I look down at Twickenham and fly past Reading and Southwark, that I
over the
should
River
say,
Thames.
Thames. River Thames.
Just under Edinburgh. Yes, carry on.
that I should say Lagos to correct all the above.
Please.
Yeah.
Please, please, please.
I am down. Sir. I will do it.
Tom, the advert.
Oh, Lagos. Oh, shit.
Every episode will only be worse than this one. I have to.
It only gets worse from here.
So good, man. So good. Go for it. Talk about Lagos.
Anyway, Lagos. No, it did make me laugh. That for obviously so again the mom with two kids.
Yeah.
Interestingly, if you've noticed, I think last time they didn't have this, but one of the kid is now a black girl.
She was always.
Was she there last time?
Always.
Obviously,
Yeah.
me smoking and I didn't pick up on that.
She was there. Yeah, she was there.
Huh? Do you think it's got any significance? Because I think obviously being part of her imagination.
I have no idea. And this is the first time they show the dad as well. I need to look back at the dad this time because I don't feel like it's the same guy from the watch things.
No, it is.
I'm
It
not
is.
sure.
It is the same.
It
It's
is?
the same dude. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Because he's got his face on. I've seen you before, and I actually
Yeah, he
went
pops
and
up.
we watched the adverts. So no, it's him again.
Okay.
But to the point where I was like, actually, she does look familiar. She looks like Monica Rambeau in Captain Marvel. The same hair, the way she moved and she looked at the way she acted it. And I was like, could it be why that scene when she goes outside and she's like, oh, Rambo says, oh, you know me to some level, you can trust me, and I think maybe she's got, I don't know. Again, it could be another.
Yeah. Well, it could be the
rabbit
TV sort of brainwashing her into accepting. Because the other thing that we didn't touch on when we did episode 4. Yeah, 4 was was the fact that Wu says that he was rejected by the hex.
Yep.
Monica says, well, have you gone in there? And he's like, no, it rejects me. And then when she touches it, she gets sucked in.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very much a conscious act, her being brought into the hex. It's not just like, oh, yeah, she's the first person that. No, she wasn't. Other people have been rejected. There's a reason why she was pulled in. What that reason is, we don't know.
And we're assuming that the rejection is from Wanda, but it very likely isn't actually.
No idea.
Because why would Wanda bring her in and then kick her out? It's probably maybe somebody else that feels that Monica could somehow allow them to get to where they want to get to in terms of Wanda's mental state. Like, are they bringing her in to further deteriorate her mental state as she's in this new reality, right? So maybe
she ends up delivering the babies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So
yeah,
that's
that
a very important thing. If we're going down that road, like the babies being delivered was an important part of this whole experiment.
Going back, so the reason why I did laugh though at the end is because obviously it's a metaphor. The old advert is a metaphor for Wanda messing up on a couple of missions, and obviously the red spill is blood, also the color of her power. So it's very interesting that the way they framed it, it's almost comical to the end when it's like, two paper rolls to clean up any mess you've made on I could say unintentional stuff. Anyway, any mess you may have spilled, created, and I went, whoa, that's harsh. Because she's carried that guilt. Pretty much, again, it's part of the entire things or the bad things that have happened to Wanda is that she's carried that guilt, and she was branded a terrorist for one of those two, one of that mess she did in Lagos. So, so it's it's I thought it was quite comical to approach it that way, and to discuss it that way, or to have it broadcasted that way to her or whoever those adverts are meant to be for, or who creates those adverts. Also, it's a question I want answers on that one, because I need to know what those adverts are there for, and who they're for, and who's made them. So many questions.
Yeah,
so that would be mine.
So, shall we talk about the reveal at the end? Because I think people have been waiting,
Well,
man.
I hope they've watched by then. They've watched that episode.
Oh yeah, I'm saying if you're here, you should have watched the episode. If not, stop right now.
Yes.
come
Spoilers. Sorry, guys.
Spoilers heavy.
Spoilers.
Which at the beginning of the episode we kind of did already, but fine. Well, second warning. But so Pietro shows up at the door, but it's the Pietro from the Days of Future Past movie. That, by the way, I have to admit though, like I know there's a lot of hate for those movies, but that kitchen scene when he runs around
amazing.
is amazing. It's such a great. It was easy to recognize and put it that way. If he had been a lesser character, it'd been hard to recognize him. But as soon as I was like, like it instantly made sense. But at the same time, and I think this is one of the things that I think in the first episode, Tom, you and I talked about this, is that this feels like a series made for the people that are truly geeky about Marvel.
Yeah.
Because your average person isn't going to get that. Like, and that's a huge reveal. And if they didn't watch those movies, they're not going to get it. Like, I had to explain it to Aiden, like, or my son, because he hasn't seen the X-Men movies yet. So big reveal, but odd choice. So I don't know. I have so many thoughts about this, but what do you guys think?
I was like, please be Deadpool. And that would have been so funny.
So good.
That
would have been so good.
What are you doing in here? Nothing, no relations at all. Just like I was just dropped in here. No, I was half expecting Doctor Strange though. Maybe it's too early, but I was like, oh my god, what if Doctor Strange shows up and it's like bang, big spanner in the in that one. So, but no, I think it's not too big, but I think if he was to be brought into the WandaVision show, then it's obviously that would be like end of episode 9 or something, just to during episode 9 to tie the thing up together, right? But then again, it just feel weird because it's like it's a weird choice, because it's like obviously, like you said, it's not somebody who's that ultra famous in the MCU world, or if at all by the wider audience. Which is why, so this directly links in with what I was saying at the start of the episode, which was, there's a big reveal, there's a big twist at the end. And I was like, and when I saw this guy, I went, yeah, cool. Okay, when's the big reveal now? So that's why I was expecting Doctor Strange or somebody like a bigger caliber role within the entire series, universe. So it's a bit, it was cool. It was cool. Now I want to know what the explanation for that is. Why is it recast? Why is it? There's a bunch of videos on YouTube. I've not watched anything. Like I've not watched anything. So I sort of want to keep a mystery to it. I don't want to have too much of a. I want to see how they explain it first, if they explain it. And then was the other the one side note I like about the way he acts. I think he's got a couple lines. It's very reminiscent to the Fonz in Happy Days. Yeah. It's like, hey, the guy that comes in with a leather jacket.
He's wearing a leather jacket as well. Yeah,
he's wearing a leather jacket. So he comes in like, who's that popsicle? And you're like, Fonz. I'm just hoping, something like that. But I don't know, Dave, who were you expecting to show up there?
I think my first thought was Ralph, actually.
Same.
The husband. Yeah. I was just thinking, like, who could it be who wouldn't normally be at the door? Like, Agnes doesn't knock when she comes in and stuff like that. Like, there's only a few characters it could possibly be from within the show. I thought Ralph, and then I saw the hair, and I thought Magneto, and then I saw the face, and I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, it was, it even took me a second to sort of realize what they had done by bringing in the Fox version of Pietro. And yeah, I don't know. I was just a bit like, I think my first inclination was that they had whoever is in control of this thing, and I will never drop it. Like I said, I'm riding until the wheels fall off. Whoever's in control of this thing has done it to mess with her head, right? It's her brother, but it's not really her brother type of thing. Like this isn't how.
Yeah, because
she
her
would remember him.
her reaction is like almost the way she says Pietro. It was almost like they had a question mark in it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like Pietro.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird.
And then he says he's her brother, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, and then even if you go back a little bit, the boys, oh my gosh, if we go back even further, we said Monica was pulled in, right? And it might have been by Wanda, it might not have been by Wanda. She's the first person that she talks about Pietro to.
Yeah.
Monica, sorry. Yeah, Monica talks to Wanda. And then the boys who we've also seen she can't control, she mentions her brother and says that she's sad about him, that he's far away from here or whatever, he's dead or whatever. And and she misses him. And then he turns up at the door. Like it's almost like if you follow that sort of train of thought, this is another thing that's being controlled by whoever else is in control. And yeah, to be honest, at first I thought they were just messing with her. But then when you hear about sort of the fact that this ties into Doctor Strange and that film's called The Multiverse of Madness and things like that, you start to think that, oh, actually, they're bringing together all of these elements from the different licenses and they're going to somehow consolidate them all and then come up with their own way of doing things afterwards.
So this could sort of solidify my theory of Vision not being the maybe not brought back to life, but plucked from another universe, which is whoever's in control's plucked that version of Pietro into that universe. And it could be the same with Vision, right? If we use the same logic and it's like he doesn't remember anything, just grab this guy. Because she says she can't give life back to anything. She can't revive anything or anyone.
That's true. So
how could she have done that with Vision? I know she can control stuff, but again, that could be shut down by seeing Vision as a dead.
He's not a living thing. He's a synthoid. Yeah. Could be. Yeah. Could be right. Could be wrong. But yeah.
Yeah. When Pietro shows up, same. It's like I was a little bit underwhelmed by the person playing it. To your point, I was just like, oh, okay. Same. I had thoughts of Doctor Strange big time, like in terms of like that would be the person showing up because like what a great way to tie into the movie. Yeah. And same. I kind of thought could it be some X-Men, whether it be Magneto or Professor X in some way, but I was like, how does that make sense in terms of the narrative, right? Because your point, they've set up the brother. So in a sense, I was like, no, this makes sense. My favorite part of that scene is like Darcy going like, she recast the brother. And that to me is just like so good because she's kind of doing like a not fourth wall, right?
Yeah.
It's like she's calling out everything that we're thinking. Yeah, she's pulling a little bit of a Deadpool, but not turning and looking at us in any way, which is it's actually one of the comic beats I really, really like in the show. But when he shows up, like there's one thing that I agree with everything you guys said in terms of like the expectations of it. There's one thing chronologically though that I thought was weird, and I'm not going to claim to have come up with this myself, but I heard it, is that when they call everybody out from SWORD and they say there's been a breach, there hasn't been a breach yet. Like Wanda starts to come through the force field as they arrive in that field. Yep. So what if the breach was the other way and Pietro ran into that reality? Right.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's because that doesn't actually add up the way that scene played out.
That's a good point.
And while yes, Marvel will mess up, how do you say, Legos? I don't think they would mess up that specific timing. I'm like, that felt a little too deliberate, but I'd only picked up on it until I heard it from I don't know where I picked it up from, but someone mentioned, I was like,
that's a good point.
Yeah, they do mess that up. Yeah.
So maybe that creates something, but shall we do? Because I feel this is where theories need to come into the equation now. Do you guys want to pop into theories?
Let's do it.
Let's roll.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So who's put in this Vision by Tom King? Who wants to talk about that? Was in terms of theories, if that's where you want to go with. Was that you, Dave? Or was you, JC?
It was a carryover from the last episode when JC had said that he had read the graphic novel.
Let's cut that out.
No, that part of it, just the fact that it says it, but then underneath it, I added the dog because that is
Sparky.
No, and thematically, it actually is very important. So thanks for bringing it up, David. The dog plays a huge role. The huge role in a minor moment is the best way I could put it. In the Vision comic, the dog uncovers the dead body in the backyard, which is Grim Reaper, and that effectively sets up your third act in the comic, because from that point, Vision is on the back foot. Like it's a slow descent into what inevitably will be a tragedy. And it kicks off from that moment with the dog. And I feel there's something similar here too, where it's like the moment with the dog is the undoing and all this, because now Vision isn't going to get it out of his head that this is wrong. And the fact that people feel pain around it is morally wrong. And Wanda doesn't just reverse that. She could have reversed all that. Like we've seen her do it and she doesn't, right? It's like she's losing control a bit from the situation, right? So yes, I'm glad you brought it, because the dog is actually really important in terms of like just a turning point, inflection point in the series.
It's funny because the Grim Reaper, again, I can't remember who made the video on YouTube, but there's a mention or a brief apparition from his the hat he's wearing, or the mask or whatever
helmet,
in the intro for episode 1 or 2. I think it's episode 2. Where Vision drops from the top floor to the floor below, and it's like in between the two floors, the floor panels, you see like the shape of the Grim Reaper's hat, mask, whatever it is. So it's quite, there's mention, so it is in there that character might show up. Don't know, or that maybe the storyline is taken from Vision, the comics.
I think the creators said that they took influence from it for the whole like having a fake life type of thing, but they said that it wasn't. They said that it wouldn't be like the same story or anything like that. And I think having Sparky the dog in there is just sort of a nod to.
It's a nod,
to that. So interestingly, Sparky is named by
Agnes.
Agnes.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Who came up? Okay. Who walked in with a freaking doghouse?
Yeah.
It's like without knowing that they had a dog.
Yeah. And Vision's like, how? And she's like, oh, I heard. Yeah, I could hear. And then there's more in terms of Agnes theories. She says that in the first episode, she says that she's their neighbor on the right-hand side, her right, not yours. All right. That means if she's not their right-hand neighbor to them when they're in their house, she is their left-hand neighbor when they are in their house. But in episode 3, we see, even in the scene with Agnes, the black dude, I can't remember his name now. Herb,
I think it is. Yeah.
He is their neighbor on the left-hand side, and she has the audacity to stand by Herb's wall and say Geraldine doesn't belong here. She has no husband, she has no family, she has no home, while she is standing next to the very wall that should be her wall and her home.
Yeah.
Maybe she don't belong here.
See, the Agnes thing is the one that I'm now really thrown off by, because it feels like at times she's helping Wanda go through this process, and at other times she very much seems to be manipulating Wanda in a very dark way, and it's so weird to tell her character, because the character's just played so over the top that you never feel you're getting anything real from her, right? But what she says is important. And yeah, I'm now totally confused as whether Agnes is helping, let's say, Mephisto, and Ralph is Mephisto, whether she's actually there as like a third party where she sees Mephisto doing something to Wanda and she's just trying to like figure out how to get her out of that situation, because that
think
thing
that's the
Agnes
case, yeah.
in the comics is good, right? So
Mm.
MCU has taken liberties with some of the comic stuff, but they
Mhm.
haven't made somebody that was good bad. At least I
Yeah.
don't remember that being
Yeah.
the case. So she's got to be good. So I don't know. I'm super confused with that one. I don't get where it's going
I
anymore.
think she might have, you know, something bad might happen to her if she doesn't get Wanda to do certain things, and maybe Mephisto's got not a literal gun to her head, but you know, she's like, okay, well, I can do this for you. Make sure you steer Wanda into the right direction. Once you've delivered, you get X, Y, Z. Off you go. I think that's how I'm seeing her. Like that's how I'm seeing. That's what she was. You know, when Herb was trying to say something to Vision, she was like, "Yeah, you can say something, but shut it now. You know, shut it for now. Not yet. It's too early." So it's. I think that's how we should read it. For now, that's how I'm seeing it for now. You know, that's how I'm seeing her character moving forward. She's intriguing. Like there's also a question to me where there's a bunch of theories around the postman. You know, when they're looking for the dog, the mailman. Shout out to Carl Malone. So there's I was really I was really like, damn, this guy knows way too much for a postman. And I know they know everything about everyone, but come on now, like how would he know? How would he know that Wanda wouldn't let the dog go that far away? You know, how would he? Because he seems to me like he's not under anyone's spell, because he's always like, we've seen him twice, but like he seems very sure about the things he's saying. No, like everyone is just playing a role, like you see it with the guy in Vision Jobs. What's his name? Norm. Like you can tell, like he's overacting everything. He's like, hey, so what is this? It's like, oh, an email. How am I going to stamp it? You know, this kind of stupid jokes. But like with the postman, it's like, the couple scenes he was in there, it's like, well, you know, yeah, I know this, I know that. Yeah, you know, go for it. And then again,
he interacts with Agnes the first time we see him as well.
He's very much interacting with her, and almost on a very personal level. Like they have their in jokes and stuff like that. Yeah. So there's something to I'm sure that there's going to be a bit more revealed with the postman and who he is. Maybe that's Ralph.
Well, he's the that is hilarious when you think about it, because of the whole stereotype of the postman.
That would be pretty good, actually.
Yeah, he's also not one of the people that's up on the wall. Like he's in the show clearly, but he's not up on the wall at all. Him and Dottie still not up on the wall, and what was the other thing? Damn, it's gone out of my head. He does the thing, she does the thing, not on the postman. The missing person. The whole reason why Wu is alerted to the scene is that there's a missing person who's meant to be living in Westview, who now is, I guess, a missing person. Because
it's Ralph.
Yeah, either one of the characters that we know or one of the characters that we don't know is was meant to be in witness protection. Yep.
That's it.
So there's this theory online that one of the people who they don't have an ID for is the missing person. So it could be the postman, it could be Agnes, it could be Dottie, or we might not have seen them yet. But there is someone who was meant to be in witness protection in Westview. Could be Ralph.
And I think in episode 4, they mentioned that there's no recollection of who that witness is. So again, maybe that person has powers and the ability to manipulate others. I don't know. There's so many ways this one could go. Who was it? I think Dottie is going to be one of those. Also, we need to find out more. There's a bunch of theories around her, and that maybe she's the most important character in the entire thing. So, I want to know.
So I'm gonna throw out the theory that will connect all, and you guys can totally tear this down.
Here we go.
So, one, I think that thematically they can't take on the X-Men and Mephisto at the same time. I think those are two huge topics that you cannot land in one show. So one of them has to be in the back burner, but still there. Because now it's too late to not say this is an X-Men tease. Like they've been very upfront about it, right? As of this show, whether it's Mephisto or some other bad, there's someone else that's pulling the strings somewhere, right? So there's a bad coming, right? So we're probably going to err on the side of that bad that opens up the multiverse of madness, right? In some way or other, right? So all right, so bear with me. Wanda has her total collapse, opens up a portal into other worlds, but she doesn't know she can, right? And this person or thing is trying to harness that to bring people from other worlds, right? And those people will end up being the X-Men in some way or other. And so far, very traditional, right? A lot of people have been thinking this. But where I think it's interesting is like, what happens to the people in the town? What if some of those people in the town are affected and mutate? And then when she removes the force field, they just scatter. They go off in different directions. And wait for it, Falcon and Winter Soldier have to go track them down. That's why it's a buddy comedy on the road, and that's why they're always on the road in those trailers. They're trying to track down the people that escaped from Westview that are now mutants and need to be accounted for. And taking it further,
little girl,
the little girl, exactly, yes, the little girl, and or somehow the children in Westview are the mutants because we keep hearing about not seeing any children. But then in the Loki show, we start to see Loki run into mutants at other timelines and bringing them back as well. That could be the good or bad mutants. So somehow Loki going through time and showing up in all these spaces, he has contact through mutants, but mutants become, like Pietro, a cameo, right? They don't become the center of the story. They just become the person that happens to be there, but it's not a story about them.
Possible.
I think it's hugely likely you might be onto something. The only sad part with it is that we're not going to know for another 5 or 6 years. That's really annoying. But I think you might be onto something. Yeah.
The only wrench I would throw in that potentially wasn't Falcon and Winter Soldier meant to come out before WandaVision?
I believe so. Yes.
Dang it. No, that is 100% right. Dang it.
It's still workable because they may not say that they're mutants in the show.
Yeah, just people with powers.
Yeah, just people. Yeah.
No, that is a big wrench, actually.
They could also recut a bunch of episodes or a bunch of scenes to make it
could be.
Make it look like it's now happening after, or it's I'm sure there's things they could have also filmed and reshot and get redone. So I'm not massive scenes that would give away the fact that they're leading up to WandaVision could be reshot and turned around the other way, which is like, well, no, this happened, bang bang bang. So it's not out of the it's not an impossibility that they could do that. It's I think there was a bunch of film. Well, actually, Black Widow was supposed to be before WandaVision, but I don't know if that's got any impact on the story. Maybe there's something in there.
Or it's set before.
It's set before,
Endgame.
There's always like
because it's
post
got Widow in it.
credit scenes. Maybe there's something in there that could have linked to WandaVision, right?
Or Tatiana Ali was not going to be She-Hulk, but she's She-Hulk, right? It's like Marvel disavows everything.
They just lied.
Right?
Yeah, no.
It's like they constantly lie about everything that's going to happen to keep us guessing, which is what they should do. But it could be that the order they even play with, because what's his face? Kevin Feige hasn't confirmed that any of these series have a season 2. It could. That's
at the moment.
That's my thought around how they have to connect somehow, because if not, it just feels like picking up another series. And it's like, what's the point of that? Because this clearly is now linking back to Endgame. And if they didn't have that continuity, I think it just is a missed trick. I'm just trying to figure out how that continuity happens.
Well,
But yeah.
the Falcon series is going to pick up again from Endgame, right? Because Falcon's going to be Captain America.
Yeah.
And they have to go, for all we know, those two series are now running in terms of timeline along with each other. So
It's quite possible.
It's possible that what we'll see in episode 1 of Falcon will be happening at the same time than episode 1 or episode 4 and 1 of WandaVision, if you know what I mean.
True.
And then it might also be that we'll see Falcon and or the Winter Soldier at the end of in episode 9, for example, of WandaVision. Just drop it in there saying, hey, or maybe before that, and saying, hey, look, shit's happening here in Westview. You guys go your way and do something. Or maybe, like you said, they need to track mutants, and then it's all linking up at the end of episode 9 / episode 1 of Falcon. It could be all tied up together. There's certainly a connection, and it's all a continuation from Endgame. I think that the one thing they've been able to do throughout the entire MCU is that they've been linking everything, tidying up everything, single movie, everything you've seen so far. There's a connection, so why would they stop now? But I don't know if there will be a season 2 for anything though. I don't know. I can't see it.
I
think there will be. I think what you would consider season 2 would be the big movies, the big assemble movies, right? That's where you consider season 2. That's where they progress the plot forward. So I don't know. Will we need one? I don't know. I don't know.
Yep. There you go. The only other thing is, as far as series structure, I think there's something interesting developing. I think there's no coincidence this is 9 episodes, because if you think about it, how many series have you watched that are 9 episodes? It's not a very common number for episodes, right? And I now very much believe that this series is at one point was a movie. Because a lot of the actors have said when we were shooting it, we weren't sure if it was a movie or if it was a series. And if you look at it, it's got a 3-act structure. The first act is all the sitcoms. We get a reveal in the 4th episode. No coincidence. That's your second act, because it creates somebody for you to follow in the shape of Monica Rambeau. And this is very much Monica Rambeau's story in these middle episodes. So I think that this next one is going to set up the last act. With all Marvel movies, the last act is a big CGI battle every time, 100%. Yeah. So, and they say this got some of the biggest set pieces ever done.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's got to be, man. And so we're gonna get some big reveal that I think will make all this tie up much better than the next one. That the last 3 episodes will just deliver on that reveal and clearly set up Falcon and Winter Soldier. And if we even get like a cameo, Falcon, Winter Soldier, or somebody else like that, I think that'd be super cool to like tie them up that way.
I've seen people saying like the episode 6 is meant to be nuts, and also the trailer is slightly misleading. So I don't know what that really means, but we'll see.
And I hope it gets longer.
Yeah, well, it is gradually going.
This one was a little bit longer. Yeah, it was 34 minutes, I think.
Well, I think it's 42, but you take away 7 minutes or 6 minutes for the intro.
Yeah.
Oh, talking about that, this funny not for the person involved, but funny anecdote. There's a little story that came out. This Marvel had to let one of the someone from the cast go. So this will appeal to you, JC. So the guy who's voicing Pietro in the Fox, the guy that shows up at the end of episode 5, the guy that was voicing him in Spanish for the movies, the X-Men movies, got fired by Marvel because he revealed on his Instagram or whatever that he was coming back to the MCU world. So people went, "Oh, you're the voice of Pietro in Spanish."
Wow.
Wow. Dude, you can't tell Latino a secret, dude. Like, Kevin Feige needs to know this, man. It's like we blabber constantly. It's like that's what we do. It's like,
well, that wasn't my takeaway from it. It was more like, damn, they're ruthless. Like they could just let it go and say, yeah, all right, that's fine. But they don't mess around with their spoilers, I think, and their secrets. But so I was like, damn, man, it's just the voice of Pietro. Like, it's nobody
Dude,
really cares.
my people not showing up the right way.
That's right. It's a Spanish guy. Yeah.
Oh, he's Spanish. Oh no, then
I think that was the Spanish. I think it was the Spanish voiceover for Pietro. Yeah.
Yeah, if he's Latino, then I get it. If he's Spanish, he should have known better.
Wow, that's some casual xenophobia between the Spanish world. Interesting, working.
Oh man, it's like the American and the British. It's like you expect a little more. It's like,
all right.
Yeah, it's like you're Spanish. You know more, right? It's like, all right. Anyways.
Right, I think. Do we have anything else, or does that?
No. Is this the part where I just blurt out random theory stuff? What happens?
Go for it.
What happens when the twins leave the hex?
That's one of the main questions.
Why wasn't the hex already red if it's Wanda that's in power?
I don't know. I think it's because, again, talking absolute bollocks here, but maybe because it was first set up by those forces that we don't know about and that controlling Wanda. And I think now when she came out and went back in, she went, nah, this shit is mine now. Bang.
Shield.
I'm going to make a nice paint job. Look at that. Bang. I think that she took control of the not the entire world as as in controlling the characters, but like the borders and the security around it. I think that's where it.
Yeah.
And that red, I think that has something to do with mutants as well.
Also, yeah.
I think two magic forces clashing together makes something. Has to be.
Two becomes one.
Two becomes one. Yep. Cool.
Yep.
Any other theories to throw out, guys? Or are we calling it?
Tapped out.
Tapped out.
Right.
Same.
All right, Tom, take us home, buddy.
Anyway. Yes, thank you again for listening to our long recap of WandaVision. Sorry if we gone on, but there's a lot to cover in this one. Thanks, Dave, for joining us again. Would you like to plug your other podcasts?
I have another
right
podcast.
Yes,
the Grit and Grime podcast. We will be recording Tuesday night, releasing Wednesday at some point. This episode, we're going to be looking at the two guards around the league and ranking them.
I'm so prepared.
Dame, and Dame. Let's just go right
centers,
now,
Dame. So that's at Grit and Grime Pod on socials.
There it is. Go and listen to that right now. Well, after our podcast, but well, whatever. I'm on both, so whatever makes sense. Well, actually, no, this one. Anyway, thank you, JC, for joining us one more time.
Yeah.
Yours. So this has been Catching Up with the Nerds. You can catch us everywhere on the interweb. That is Instagram, where we are now so close to 500 subscribers. Not to brag. I'm not bragging. I'm just literally telling you. I'm just giving you an update because I feel this is important and I like it.
Humble brag.
Humble brag. And also because I'm French, and that's how we do it ever so nicely. Anyway, thanks guys for coming and joining us into the beautiful world of WandaVision and Marvel in general. We'll catch you all in the next one. We've got a couple episodes on Black History Month coming up. Stay tuned for that because I think that would be really cool. Lots for me to learn and for everyone to learn. And we'll be back, I guess, next week for the recap of episode 6. That's us. We out. Bye.
Bye.